Hey guys, it is Coach Mikki and Coach Max here. Today we are wanting to talk to you a little bit about holiday eating and getting around some of the, social expectations or some tips that you can utilize whilst traveling and minimizing some of the effects, that come from that. So what we want to start this off with is give you a bit of a summary. It's going to be a bit of a back and forth between Max and myself with some focal takeaway points for you guys to implement whilst you're traveling, wherever it may be. So this isn't set on a specific area, whether it be traveling locally around Australia or wherever you are, or if it's an international trip and going abroad and really opening yourself up to that. So I guess the first thing we want to talk about is, what is the purpose of your holiday? Like I feel like holidays have quite a wide variety of expectations. Like, what is it that you're going there for? Are you wanting to, go to Hawaii and literally just sit by the pool, get a tan and relax? Or are you wanting to go to a place like India or something like that and really experience the culture and some of the differences there? So in that scenario, I suppose that also will affect on how you are eating around that time. So like, what's your thoughts on something like that? If you were to be spending a bit of time traveling around Hawaii and you literally just want to be sitting at a pool all day, like how would you be addressing food in that scenario versus going to a place where you really want to be doing like a cultural thing and experiencing the places?
Yeah, I think the biggest difference, I guess, with the food scenario is if you're going somewhere that is new, a new culture, you're obviously going to want to try and incorporate as much of that culture as you can, and that's going to include cultural food as well.
Yeah.
So in India, if you're from a Western country and you're going to another Western country, that's not going to be as big of a focal point. You can get the same food in pretty much every country, so there'd be little differences with that. And there'd also be differences around, I guess, what food is readily available, like in a Western country versus like a developing nation.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess as well, like when you think about when you're traveling overseas, are you going to come back and be like, oh yeah, we went to this really awesome burger joint? Or are you going to come back and want to tell stories about some of the awesome experiences, things that you spent maybe a little bit more money on, but it's something that you will remember for the rest of your life? So like, saving up a couple of dollars, don't go out for 2 or 3 meals and rather go on like some awesome scenic helicopter tour or something like that may cost you $200 a head, but if you work out the cost of going out maybe 3 or 4 times over the course of that week, there's that scenic holiday, helicopter tour that you've missed out on because you'd rather just spend that money on food. So I guess those are some of the things that you want to think about a little bit as well. And then obviously the length of the trip too.
Yeah, of course. Like the length of the trip is obviously going to dictate how you're going to approach it. Like if you're only going away for like a long weekend or a week or so, it's obviously not going to be as big a deal in terms of pre-planning. But if you're going away for like 4 weeks or months on end, then you're going to need to pre-plan and actually put in place, I guess, a bit of a strategy in terms of how you're going to manage things while you're away. Yeah,
absolutely. And also with that as well, like making sure that you have accommodation that's going to facilitate that. Like, are you traveling around a lot to different places every couple of days, or are you staying in one central location, which will then allow you to perhaps have something like a kitchen and all that sort of stuff available? Like, I feel whenever like Will and I travel somewhere, one of the first things that we're looking for is a kitchen or a fridge and a microwave, those sort of cooking facilities to make life a lot easier for us as well. But then with that as well, like before you're going on a trip, we want to make sure that we have a plan in place as well.
Yeah, definitely. And that's where I guess setting in place some expectations for while you're away comes into it. So if we've pre-planned and we're in the middle of a prep, or even if we're not, we just want to stay in shape, the biggest thing while we're away, we obviously want to have a good time, but we don't want to undo the work that we did leading up to our holiday. So that's where a little bit of pre-planning can go a long way. And it doesn't have to be really in depth. You don't need to be sticking to a strict meal plan while you're on holiday.
Yeah.
But you do need to have some form of system or a way to keep yourself in a routine that's going to lead you to, putting in place a system that's going to allow you to actually keep making progress, or at least not like undo the progress from before.
Yeah. And with the dieting beforehand as well, it's like, you know, if you know in 6 months' time you're going to be spending a month traveling away, then perhaps it is worthwhile setting like mini cut phases leading up to that, so you drop a little bit of body fat. If you're going to a place like Hawaii, you're going to be in your bikini, you want to make sure that you look good in your bikini, like doesn't everyone, right? So so I think it's really important as well, like that you're planning some structure before you go, and whether it is like just enjoying yourself whilst you're over there and maybe letting your hair out a little bit. If you've dieted beforehand, then it's not going to have as much of an impact. If you went over there before in out of shape and then you blew out over there as well, you're going to come back feeling even more shittier about yourself as well. 100%. So whilst we are away, you know, we want to make sure that we're moving more. We want to make sure that, like when we're looking at things like accommodation, if you're wanting to train and you're wanting to go to the gym, plan your accommodation or have a look at where gym facilities and that sort of stuff are around you as well. If you, and I'm not saying like hit your powerlifting sessions or your heavy gym sessions or something like that, but if you want to go in there once, 2 or 3 times a week, or if your hotel has a gym facility, you know, that's a really handy thing for you to, you know, maybe burn a little bit of extra calories over there. But obviously the best way to see a place is by walking. Yeah,
definitely. And I think you raised a good point there around planning your accommodation. So like I know if I'm traveling to a new city, it's pretty much what I do. So get on Google Maps, figure out like what area of the city do I want to stay in, then get on like Airbnb and see, okay, like what accommodation is available there, and make sure it has a kitchen, etc. And even if you're staying in a hotel, I'll typically go for the hotel that does have like some form of gym, and it's like not that I'm expecting to go in there and squat and deadlift, but I can go in there and do some like single leg work, just mix it up, but I'm still staying active and actually training in some way.
Adding some resistance as well. Like I feel like you almost feel a little bit detrained after like 2 weeks of not even moving like a dumbbell. You know what I mean? Like you come back, and if you've spent 2 weeks traveling overseas in the flight, all that sort of extra stress that you're under, and you're not doing something as simple as like a goblet squat, like, and you come back and you like, you know, you're doing the goblet squat for the first time, you're like, oh my God, like this 15 kilos feels really, really heavy in my hands right now. But then again, like we mentioned, the best way to see a place is by walking around and actually experiencing where you're at. So, and by moving more, obviously, as we know, you're going to be burning a little bit more calories. So that's going to perhaps allow for a little bit more wiggle room with some calories whilst you're away, which I guess brings us on to our next topic, and that's setting like a calorie budget and setting some kind of protein and calorie like tools or restrictions in a sense.
Definitely. And that's where I think there's really like 2 main approaches. The first one would be to set calories. And if you set calories, you can be more flexible with the types of foods that you eat, because obviously you're going to track them. So, you know, that's where it doesn't matter too much about, I guess, the types of foods that you eat with that. If you're not wanting to track calories while you're away, then you need to be less flexible with your food choices, because it's the way to, I guess, control how much you're eating without actually tracking it. So if you're not tracking, I suggest just making sure we're in a routine of eating the same amount of meals and making sure there's a good protein source at each one of those meals. And that way we can basically ensure that we're not going to blow out on calories at all. So there's pros and cons to both. Obviously, tracking calories, you can include a wider variety of foods, but by, I guess, mindful eating, we can't have whatever foods we want. We just need to base it on having high protein food in each meal.
Yeah, exactly. And then if you are going to be eating out, we want to make sure that, like us personally, I like to set at least like 1 meal out a day, I think is sufficient. Like if you, whether it be breakfast, lunch or dinner, that doesn't really matter, but you want to enjoy that 1 meal out that you're having. And then prior to that or around that meal, just eat a little bit less. Make sure that you're hitting those high protein foods, and then just have other healthier calorie, like lower calorie alternatives on hand. So things like, you know, you can go to any supermarket now and just get like a protein bar or a YoPro and a piece of fruit or something like that as well. That's high in protein, but obviously slightly lower in calories. So if you are going to be eating out, plan what you're eating out and maybe adjust some of the foods that you're eating around that day. So, and then with that, eating out comes like your drinks.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a really, really good point in terms of pre-planning your meals out. So like personally, yes, if I'm traveling or on vacation, like yes, I want to eat out, and it is like kind of one meal per day, and then you put the bulk of your calories or food in that meal. So if you were tracking calories, you'd be going with lower calories for like breakfast and lunch, and then you'd be saving that for dinner. So you can kind of go in there guilt-free and know that you've got heaps of calories in the bank, so it doesn't really matter so much.
Yeah.
And if you were mindfully eating, what I typically do is eat high protein, low carb, low fat meals for breakfast and lunch. So whether even if that's just snacks on the go kind of stuff. And then I know that if I go into that last meal, and even if I want to have like, I don't know, pasta or whatever else, it's not a big deal because I've kind of accounted for that in the meals previously.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, like we were saying before, with the alcohol as well, if you're going to be drinking, we want to make sure that you're planning what you're drinking as well. So if you know that there's no reason for you to drink that day because you're going and having a more scenic day and just actually experiencing the city, then, you know, like that's totally fine. But the next day, if you have an event that night, or you're going to go out for dinner, or you're going to go and have a couple of drinks, plan the alcohol that you're drinking out as well. So if you're having, again, going back to like sitting by the pool type thing, you're going to have a couple of cocktails, in that case, plan for that alcohol within your structured calories. Or, you know, if you're going to go out for dinner or something like that and have one or two wines, like all we're saying is like account for those additional calories that are coming from alcohol, and eat a little bit less carbs throughout the day as well to, I guess, look at the, you know, the differences there that's coming from it. So alcohol has 7 calories per
7
gram.
calories per gram, yeah.
So, I mean, for me personally, it depends on what sort of food you're eating. Like sometimes I actually take my fats from alcohol, and I just have less fats throughout the day. So I won't even eat out that day, and I'll just account for some extra calories for my alcohol instead. So I guess it's just budgeting that into the total intake that you're eating over that period of time.
Yeah, definitely. And with that, you can definitely, like, pre-planning is a great strategy. So you can know, say, I'm going to have 3 beers with dinner, and then you know, like, cool, I'm going to look forward to these 3 beers, but after that, I'm done. So it's a great way to limit your own intake. And as long as we're sticking to like reasonable amounts of alcohol, we can absolutely manage it. But obviously, if you're going to drink to excess, there is no way to manage that. So there's no way that you can just drink recklessly for a week straight,
something like that,
and not expect to have some negative consequences from that. So as long as we're mindful and making like, you can be relaxed and have fun, but you got to be somewhat sensible at the same time around managing your own alcohol intake.
Yeah, absolutely. And then if you are eating out and doing that sort of stuff, like, share some of the food with your partner. You know, like if you're wanting to try a few different alternatives on the menu, look at something that is like finger food type thing, like pick a few like entree type meals and share that amongst each other, and you'll probably actually save a few calories whilst
and
eating
share the dessert
as well.
and things like that. Like most of the time you don't need to order your own dessert because you're probably not still hungry, but you just want to taste something sweet, which is fine, but then, you know, share that with your partner, share it with your friends. It's a great way to kind of cut down on how much you're overall eating. Yeah,
exactly. Like if you're going for that dark chocolate mud cake or something like that,
exactly.
Like at the end of the day, the two of you can sit down and have half the mud cake each, and there's half the amount of calories that you probably would have consumed had you just devoured it yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess to wrap this up, there's a few points that we kind of want to talk about, and that's, you know, don't be super strict. Like, you're on holidays for a reason. The point of a holiday is to relax, it's to recover, it's to de-stress. So really do enjoy yourself. But I guess we want to be mindful.
Yeah,
you know, take these sort of points into consideration. And the first thing is like set a routine around food, whether it be setting some calories, setting total calories and protein, or setting like the plan of when you're going to be eating out and what types of food you're going to be eating out. Obviously making sure that you have access to cooking facilities.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, I feel personally whenever Will and I travel, again, going back to that, we'll have breakfast at home because we're waking up, we're going to have our usual routine. Like, if we have access to a fridge and a microwave, things like protein oats, cereal, yogurt, all those sort of options are really accessible for you just to keep a routine. It's a piece of fruit, have that for breakfast, and then throughout the day bring some snacks with you, like peanut butter sandwiches. If you're someone that actually going on the opposite end, like we're talking about people that are, you know, mindfully trying to restrict calories, but people need to eat more food as well. So on the opposite end of that, if they're trying to like maintain their body weight, you know, we want to make sure that you're packing those calories in from easy foods that are accessible, like peanut butter sandwiches, dried fruit, all that sort of stuff that you can have your girlfriend's handbag and you just kind of fork out as you go along. Every girlfriend knows what it's like to have some fruit or a wallet or something like that from their partner. So having cooking facilities and stuff like that will, again, limit some of the money that you're actually spending so that you can really enjoy those experiences, and then probably limit some of the calories that you're actually eating, or have control around those calories. So the third point, setting realistic expectations.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Like, I feel at the end of the day, a lot of people go on holidays, don't expect to lose weight whilst you're on a holiday.
No, and like, understand that in order, if you wanted to continue losing weight while being on holiday, you absolutely could do it, but you would need to sacrifice doing a lot of other things. So you would have to be very, very strict with your diet still. You'd need to continue training. And if you're not willing to do that, then don't expect to have that result.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple in that respect. So if you're there to have a good time and, you know, see some things, you know, that's probably going to be a higher priority for that short period of time. And then once you're back, you know, at home, then you can get back to actually
be okay with being a little bit thicker if you're on holidays. But
and realistically, like, there's only so much damage you can do in a short period of time, provided that you're not doing anything stupid. So that's important. But, you know, if you're away for 2 weeks, for example, you're not going to balloon out and undo everything in 2 weeks unless you do some of the things that we've told you not to do. So as long as you still enjoy yourself and be somewhat mindful, you'll be absolutely fine.
And don't think that you're going to lose muscle mass. How many times do I have people come back and be like, oh my God, I haven't trained for 2 weeks. Like, how much muscle mass have I lost?
You've probably, if anything, gained from some muscle mass because you've been able to recover better by not training and having lower stress levels.
Exactly.
So you're fine.
Yeah, exactly. And then the fourth point in there is, like we've said, have low calorie, easy food available for you. So hopefully that gives you guys a few tips on traveling around, whether it be locally or internationally. Make sure you have access to easy foods, cooking facilities, set a routine, move more, and be realistic with what you hope to achieve over there. If you have any questions, guys, shoot us an email or contact us, and we'd be happy to help you out and guide you through whatever trip that you're coming up in the coming term.